Mom left my sister a set of rules to ensure my safety. By you, polonium poisoning. From a young age, my biggest fear was listening to the siren of an ambulance and not realizing it was for me. I feared dying and not knowing it. I feared being somehow outside of my body and not realizing it was seriously injured. I feared this even more than experiencing the horrible pain that would indicate being aware of my state. I'm not exactly those people who love being alive. My existence is tepid at most. I couldn't afford going to college. My job is dull, and at 26 I still live with my sister. I just prefer clinging to that than being thrown in the big unknown. I come from a hard-working family. To make ends meet, Mom and Dad slaved themselves. Dad had 2 jobs, and on weekends Mom took my sister Sibylle and I to sell homemade sweets in the park. We never had unnecessary expenses. Our clothes were hand-me-downs, except our birthday suits. Our books were usually borrowed from the local library. Our furniture was from garage sales, and I probably spent more time at thrift stores than at my grandma's house. We never had unnecessary expenses but 1 cent. It didn't even smell nice, and I remember thinking it was incredibly pricey. Mom never explained to me why she bought them, but Dad was completely unbothered by such a waste of money. She lighted them every day, religiously. When I was 20, Mom and Dad moved from our 2-bedroom apartment in the city to care for my grandmother. I was happy with the privacy, finally my own bedroom. Sibylle, 2 years my senior, got the slightly bigger bedroom that used to be our parents'. Before leaving, Mom of course gave us the sermon in Monty, repeating over and over every instruction she deemed necessary: lock and chain the door every night, don't invite stranger men in, wash white clothes separately. You get the gist. She then talked in whispering tones with Sibylle. It was months later that I found my sister's notes regarding the secret instructions. Some of them were about me, while others just didn't make any sense. Mom's special rules. Always have handmade verbena incense at home, and light it every day. 1 a day is usually enough, unless something weird starts to happen, you will know. All the doors and windows should be closed by nighttime. It's your duty to check 3 times. At least once a week, while Bianca is asleep, do the chant I've taught you years ago. For that reason, you two can never be apart for over a week, unless, of course, she's with me. Pools and the sea are still off limits for her. Don't encourage her to get over this fear. The same goes for shaving her head. Your sister can never see her own scalp. If your sister is ever on a serious relationship and plans on living with this person, you must pass the instructions to them. At the time, I thought it was just a bunch of superstitious bullshit. I love Mom, but she was a little bit crazy. Almost 6 years went by. Sibylle lights the incense every day. I don't have money to travel, so I'm never away from her from over a week. I'm still afraid of bodies of water and have no plans of shaving my head. So far so good, and I didn't give this list a second thought for a long time. It was only recently that I remembered those rules, because my fiancé inexplicably ended our relationship. So I confronted my sister. What possibly could you have told Damien to make him dump me? I asked, enraged. I really loved this man. It wasn't fair that whatever madness Mom and Sibylle believed could affect my life this way. She looked surprised, but surprised that she was busted, not surprised by a baseless accusation. What do you mean? She asked, pretending to be calm. I know that Mom gave you some weird instructions about me. And she said that you'd have to tell anyone I'd marry about them. She seemed to be at loss for words. Well, Bianca, why don't you ask Damien? I'm sure he can tell you I did nothing wrong. Her deliberate choice of words and the fact that she knew that he suddenly didn't want to see me again really hurt me. I was filled with hatred. Fine. Let's see what happens if your dumb set of rules is broken. I yelled and locked myself in my bedroom. Then I left home while she was at work. To me, it feels like our fight was weeks ago, but it was only November 8th. I took a bus and decided to spend some days with a friend in a nearby town, away from my sister. Once I proved that she and mom were being ridiculous, they would apologize and hopefully undo the harm they did to my relationship with Damien. Of course Sibylle and my parents wouldn't stop calling and texting me, so I decided to turn off my phone. I wouldn't tell anyone where I was. I wanted peace. I wanted to show how superstitions were dumb. On the first 3 days away from home, I felt terribly ill, but I figured my body and mind were just tired from everything I've been through, my exhausting daily job, the whole ordeal with my fiancé, fighting with my sister for the first time in my life. My friend got me some cold medicine, and I spent most of my time sleeping in her guest bedroom. But November 11th started off completely different. I didn't feel exactly ill. My body felt numb and my mind was hazy. Suddenly, my memories seemed to be locked away too far from my reach. Did I have a childhood best friend named Felicia, or did I dream it? How many cousins do I have again? I keep forgetting them even though we are close. What are the names of my previous boyfriends? I didn't date a lot of people and I'm not one to forget those things. And the pool. Everything goes back to being really little and hitting my head in the edge of a pool. I never remembered this before. Am I dreaming this? I feel anguish and I listen to distant sirens. I then wake up and try to read words on my computer screen, but they become incomprehensible symbols. I then wake up again and write this story, but no one reads it. No one sees me. No one replies. No one cares. I then wake up and the next day is November 11th again. But I'm not sure if it's this November 11th, because I keep seeing a little girl in a pool and she's bleeding and she looks like me. There's a slightly older girl with her, holding her deformed, broken down head. My parents are there. They are young and somehow I know that the huge house with a pool is theirs, even though it doesn't make any sense because they both worked 70 hours a week just to afford a small apartment. But they are crying and screaming about how they'd give everything they have in exchange of their child back. I wake up again and write this again and try to read again and words have no meaning again. Am I awake? Have I ever been awake? Have I been actually awake in the last 20 years? I have been in this loop over 30 times now. Every time I write pretty much the same post, but my message never goes through. Every day I think about apologizing to my sister. I want so bad to tell her where I am so she can use the fucking rules, but the messages aren't sending and my friend's house is empty. The streets are empty. There are no buses and no cars, just silent houses. I'm scared, but I'm trying again. I have a feeling that this time it will reach someone. I came to understand that I am stuck in some sort of limbo between life and death, but maybe others are too. So if you're reading this, I have bad news and good news. I hooked up with a hot girl, but she has some weird rules she wants me to follow. Bayou/Rindan123. My friend Alex loves partying. He organized a party at his parents' place for New Year's Eve and wanted to make it the biggest one yet, since his parents were out of town. He invited a bunch of friends and told them to invite their own friends, with the only condition being that they should bring some booze. His parents have a luxurious house, which has enough room for 2 entire football teams, so Alex wasn't overly concerned about the place being crowded. When I arrived around 10:30 p.m., the music was already blaring 3 blocks away and most of the people were pretty drunk. I joined in on the drinking and soon enough got tipsy. It was around this time that I noticed one girl at the party, who seemed to be standing next to the wall on her own, holding a cup in her hand. She immediately caught my eye because she was otherworldly beautiful. She had long, blonde hair and blue eyes. The blue dress she wore prominently showed her sultry figure and it was all I could do not to stare. She seemed to catch my gaze and smiled, as she took a sip from her cup. "Yo Daryl, you having a good time?" Half-drunken Alex wrapped his arm around my shoulders, almost spilling his drink on me. I leaned in and shouted in his ear, so that he could hear me over the loud music. "Yeah, man. Hey listen, Who's that girl over there? What? He raised his eyebrows and leaned in closer. I repeated my question, and once he glanced at the girl, he said, I don't know her name, man. But Matt's been with her, says she's a beast in bed. Huh? I said, catching the girl's gaze once more. I had just ended a 3-year-long relationship, so I wasn't really looking for anything serious. A one-night stand sounded like a perfect way to end the shitty year that was 2019. Alex leaned in to shout something in my ear. Hey, but even though she fucks like a nymph, Matt said he'd never interact with her again. Why? I asked. Alex shrugged. No idea. He just said that inviting her home was the worst idea. Hey, Jamie. His attention went to another friend that passed by, and I was left alone with my own thoughts, as difficult as they were to be heard in such a loud place. Matt was pretty picky with women, so having another girl that isn't to his liking was no big news. I realized that the girl was still staring at me with a seductive smile, so I allowed the alcohol in my blood to give me the surge of courage I needed to approach her. We introduced each other and made some shallow small talk. She said her name was Melissa, and after a few brief exchanges, I asked her to dance. She said yes, spurring me to try and take things even further. As we danced, things started getting more heated between us, and at one point, Melissa wrapped her arms around my shoulders and leaned in, as she said, Do you have a place? We can take this somewhere more private. She bit her lip as she said so and continued dancing gently. I got an apartment. Not too far away, we can use my car. I said, my boner practically talking instead of me. She nodded, and before anyone noticed, we were out of Alex's house. We barely managed to enter my apartment with our clothes still on, and as soon as I locked the door behind us, she stopped kissing me and said, Wait. Before we do this, there are some things you need to know about me. What things? I said, kissing her neck, not caring about talking right now. She gently pushed me away, blushing and panting, and said, Please, this is very important. Listen to what I have to say, and I promise I'll let you do anything you want with me later. She ran her hand across my inner thigh. I was so horny at that moment I just wanted to jump on her, but I nodded and agreed to let her speak. She sat upright on the couch and exhaled, before she said, Alright, so. There are a couple of rules you need to follow, because otherwise you may put yourself in danger. Oh great, I thought to myself. She has STD or something. She continued. If you see my eyes turning red during sex, close your own eyes, but don't stop. You're going to hear me making deep, guttural noises, but they should be gone within a minute or so. Again, just don't open your eyes during that time. I can't be responsible for what happens to you if you do. If you feel that you might lose your erection, try to focus on something to hold it, at least until the weird noises stop. If you feel my grip getting painfully firm on you, like claws, stop moving and I'll gradually let you go. After we are done having sex, I will ask you some questions, like how it was for you, have you had any better partners, how many girls you slept with, etc. I will need you to answer this as truthfully as possible. I'll know if you lie. Once we are ready to go to bed, put a piece of any kind of raw meat out of the fridge on the counter and leave it there overnight. We'll be sleeping in the same bed, so if you touch me during the night and I feel ice cold, ignore me. I may wake up and try to coax you into speaking to me, by asking you a question or becoming hysterical. Whatever I do, just ignore me. I won't hurt you, so as long as you pretend I'm not there, you'll be fine. If you wake up and find me staring through the window, get out of the apartment as quickly as you can. Don't bother getting dressed, just get out. If you wake up and I'm not there, call out to me. You're going to hear one of the following things, either me saying that I'll be right back or calling you to come out. Ignore the latter, that's not me. And last, but most important rule, make sure to set your alarm and wake up at exactly 6:06 a.m. If you see me still in bed by then, covered with the blanket over my head, get out of the apartment as quietly as you can. I will be out of your apartment by 6:05 a.m., no exceptions. That's all. She exhaled, staring at me in anticipation. I stared back, with mouth agape. I hadn't even realized how dumbfounded and breathless I was until she finished. So, do you have any questions? She shrugged. No. I mean, everything is clear. Give me a moment please, I need to use the bathroom. I fumbled to form a sentence and excused myself to the toilet. While there, I texted Matt. Hey bro, you know a girl named Melissa? His response came almost immediately. Yeah, why? I said. Well, I hooked up with her, but I heard you said there was something wrong with her. What's her problem? Matt read my message right away, but responded only after a minute. Did you invite her home? The message made me feel uneasy. I started to type, when his next message came through. Bro, please tell me you didn't invite her home. I did. I responded, my hands practically shaking by this point. Fuck. Matt replied. What is it? I asked, now starting to feel full-blown panic. He said. You have to go through with her rules now. Don't kick her out before she decides to leave on her own. She will be out of there by 6:05 a.m. Bro, what are you talking about? I'll just tell her I'm not feeling well and send her home. Don't do that. Listen to me, don't fucking do it. He immediately responded. Why? I asked. He typed for a moment, before saying. Because my friend Kid did it. And they found him dead in his bed 2 days ago. Just then, 3 slow knocks resounded on my bathroom door.